Hello YouTube, my name is Tyler. My camera battery is about to die, so we're gonna try and keep this quick. This is going to be a reading check-in. It is November 8th, and I have read 3 books in the first week of November. They've been relatively lowly rated, so the month is not starting off great. The first thing was The Hunger by Alma Katsu, which I listened to. I gave it 2 stars. This is a historic fiction novel that plays with the history of the Donner Party. I've heard of 2 books by Alma Katsu, The Hunger and what's the other one? The Fever, something like that takes place on the Titanic. And then The Hunger, which is the Donner Party. The Donner Party seemed like more my type of horror novel. However, I don't know, this just didn't really work for me. There was a lot of different perspectives we're following because the party was relatively large. So there's a lot of different characters. And I don't know how I feel about this kind of supernatural contagion kind of being used in an actual real horror story. I don't know, it just kind of felt weird the whole time I was listening to it, and I just didn't vibe with it. You know, I knew going into it that it was historic fiction and it was the Donner Party. It's not something based on the Donner Party. It is the people who were in the Donner Party being the story being retold with this horror element. I knew that going in, but I don't know, it just wasn't something I really realized would have kind of sat wrong with me while listening to it, because I'm these are real people. They really did get trapped and have to eat each other. So I don't know, maybe I would have liked it more if it was just based on the Donner Party but not real historic people. But I don't know. So I gave it 2 stars. I finally finished Dracula. I was doing the Dracula daily email thing, and that finally finished this week. I gave it 1 star. I really did not have a good time. I can't tell you if I would have liked it more if I had read it regularly or not. Vampire stuff tends to be kind of hit or miss for me anyways. I have liked some vampire-y stuff, but just vampire in general is not necessarily interesting to me, and this is kind of the basis of a lot of vampire fiction in the Western canon in general. So I don't know if this would have worked for me if I had just chosen to read it normally. There was just a lot of logistics, just we gotta get to this place, talking about how they're gonna get to this place and how they're gonna do this. But while there was a little bit of action near the end, there's not actually a lot of action. It's just a lot of writing in diaries and telling you what happened. And so I don't know if that would have been satisfying separate from having to read it over the course of 7 months and wanting to be done with it. So yeah, 1 star. And then the other thing I read was An Ordinary Violence by Adriana Chartrand. I really, really liked this. I gave this 4 stars. I picked it up on a whim. Hoopla sent me a push notification on Halloween saying use your borrows. This is a book that you might like or whatever. And I saw that it was about an Indigenous woman. It was described as a horror novel. And so I was okay, why not? I gave it a shot. It was short. I read it in about a week. Enjoyed it. It's been a while since I have watched Donnie Darko, so I can't say whether there are actual real similarities between Donnie Darko and this book, but that's the vibes it was giving me. It just was so unsettling. It's a slow build, but there's just something when I was reading it, I was what is happening here, but not in the like, I'm confused, things aren't being explained. There was just like something felt off and you didn't know what it was. And as the book goes on, it gets more and more unsettling. But I will say, you're not going to get any answers. So if you need your horror to be like tied up and you need like explanations of what happened and stuff like that, you're probably not going to like this. If you like a really like quick paced, lots of stuff happening, knowing what's going on, you're probably not going to like this. But I really liked it. It is about a girl named Dawn, or a woman named Dawn, who moves back home after living in the big city for a few years. She moves back home because her brother is getting out of jail and her dad needs help. And when her brother gets back from prison, there's just something weird about the town and about her brother and like the people in their life. There's something weird going on. And you don't know what it is, but it's unsettling. It was really enjoyable. I really liked it. The things that keep me from giving it a 5. This is a debut novel and it does kind of feel like that. Particularly in like, there's particularly like these flashbacks to her time in Toronto that I just didn't feel like added a whole lot to the story. I'm supposing it's like supposed to kind of get us to know Dawn outside of her hometown and like in relation to other people after her brother gets sent to prison. We're trying to understand Dawn, but I honestly don't feel like it added a lot to the story, and it was like my least favorite part of the book. Not like I like was hating it or anything. I just like didn't care for those parts. And at, I don't know, like the halfway point or something, they kind of just like disappear. They stop happening, these like flashbacks to her time in Toronto, because they kind of like meet up with her moving back home. But I just like don't feel like they added a ton. I didn't feel like there was a lot of purpose to those flashbacks, besides kind of just like being, I guess, a trope in like horror and thriller type genres where there's like always flashbacks to what was going on in a person's life before the major events of the novel are currently happening. So like that's kind of like the big thing. I felt like it was already a relatively short book. I think it was under 300 pages. So like I felt like it could have been tightened up just a little bit. But you know, that's a personal preference. And it was just such a surprise. I had no idea going into this whether I was gonna like it or not. It was just like, it seemed kind of interesting, and I don't know, I had been reading bad stuff and I hadn't read an Indigenous author in a while. So I was like, I'll just go ahead and at least try it. So that was such a surprise, and I had a lovely time reading it. So those are the 3 things I read this week. I will see y'all later. Bye!